Hello again, and welcome back to Quirky Questions with Historical Figures. Thanks to the wonders of modern technology, we are able to pull famous historical figures from their place in the space-time continuum. This week's guest is F. Scott Fitzgerald. Good to have you with us, Fitzy. Can I call you Fitzy?
Well, I'd rather you.
Good. Well, with that, I'd like to welcome the great American novelist.
Well, I wouldn't say great American novelist.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I mean to welcome the mediocre American novelist. No, Fitzy, your work is heavily influenced by your time period, which we, from the future, refer to as the Roaring Twenties. Your most famous pieces include This Side of Paradise, The Beautiful and Damned, The Great Gatsby, and Tender is the Night. What issues did you address in your writing?
Well, the 20s were a time of economic prosperity. As a result, lots of young men were making quick fortunes, so there was always the tension between the new young and up-and-coming businessmen with their new fortunes versus the older generations of landholders. There was also the many lavish parties that the rich would throw. So much more money was being thrown around than you can imagine. When you don't have to worry about money, the strangest things can become your worries. Personal relationships go to levels that the lower classes never get to experience.
What were some of the biggest characteristics of your era?
Well, the 20s are what I refer to as the Jazz Age. Women embraced flapper dresses, and Art Deco became very popular. Economically, consumer goods became widely available. Automobiles were starting to fill the streets, and things like motion pictures created celebrities. All of a sudden, one lifestyle became synonymous with success, and everyone's chasing it.
What was the biggest cultural change of the Jazz Age?
I would say it would definitely be the dancing and the alcohol. The dancing changed so much. It dominated all the genres of music. Novelty dances emerged. Some of the most notable ones were the breakaway, the swing, and the Charleston. The alcohol was also a big part of the culture. It was everywhere. Even I partook in it. It definitely contributed to the raucous behavior of the rich. It became such a problem that the government put a prohibition on it. It didn't really stop the consumption, though. It only gave rise to organized crime.
What are some of the deeper issues you explore?
Well, mainly I write about youth and promise, or the age and despair.
Some critics claim that a lot of your writing was heavily influenced by your upbringing. Can you shed some light on your pre-novelist years?
Well, I was born in Minnesota to an upper-class Catholic family, so I grew up learning the values of hard work, but also learning how the people of my social class interacted with each other. In some ways, this is where the characters of Nick Carraway and Jay Gatsby come from.
If you had to describe your work with a single idea, what would it be?
I guess I would say that my main focus is the deteriorating of the American dream. In the post-war years, there was a shift of American culture towards materialism, and the concept of the American dream was born. What you never hear about, though, is what happens after you've achieved the dream, and what happens when you achieve it so early in your lifetime. Well, your personal life starts to get a little complicated.
What do you think about the American dream now, and how does it reflect in your writing?
Well, that it is essentially the character of Gatsby. He was a romantic idealist, believed in the pursuit of the American dream. However, he is disillusioned and ultimately killed by the brutal realism and materialism of modern America.
How do you see the middle class from your perspective?
Well, honestly, I see them as devoted to the dream of material success, to the worship of wealth and the wealthy, and the possessions and the lifestyle of the wealthy.
And how do you see the established wealth of American society?
Well, they are clearly the modern aristocracy. They're young and they're glamorous. They're princes and princesses of America. That being said, they are rather self-centered, callous, careless, and beautiful. As they mature, however, they become powerful, class-conscious, and ruthless individuals.
Your wife Zelda was also an influence in your writing, was she not?
Yes, for better and for worse, I'd say. I met Zelda at a country club in Alabama in 1917. She wasn't very fond of me when she first met me. We dated and got engaged, but Zelda called off the wedding when she deemed me not wealthy enough.
This sounds very familiar to the motivation of Gatsby.
Well, yes. As a writer, I like to include my own experiences in my writing. It helps give the events a certain human element. It is because of her that I decided to get serious with my writing. I quit my job, moved back in with my parents, and finished This Side of Paradise. Interestingly enough, This Side of Paradise turned me to the very thing I critique. It generated enough wealth to persuade Zelda to marry me, but we became instant celebrities.
How did your success affect your marriage?
It affected it in the worst ways. Zelda was often jealous and would fight me on many things. She certainly did not like me using excerpts from our life in my writing. But as a writer, it's what I do.
Zelda must have enjoyed the success that you both shared in.
Oh, she most certainly did. She became an instant icon. She dove headfirst into the celebrity lifestyle in a very unhealthy way, I might add. She began to drink excessively, and that created a lot of tension. I mean, I drank, but she took it to a whole other level.
And how did the stock market crash affect both of you? It must have been a rude awakening seeing your glamorous lifestyle be pulled away from you so quickly.
I was fine with the economic depression that followed the crash. My marriage, however, did not survive. Zelda had a terrible nervous breakdown and spent a year in and out of mental health hospitals. This is when I wrote One a Shepherd Broad, which is in some sense my way of working out our failing marriage.
How are the remaining years of knowing Zelda?
She ended up writing a short autobiography, using our marriage as the basis. The irony is not lost on me. Zelda was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which placed her in a Highland Hospital mental asylum. As far as I know, that's where she is now.
Well, according to our research, she dies in 1948 when a fellow patient of hers starts a fire in the asylum where she was living. But don't worry, you die way before that, like 8 years before that.
Well, that certainly is disheartening. How do I die?
A heart attack.
Oh, that's...
ironic? Yeah, so anyway. How do your travels abroad affect your writing?
Well, funnily enough, I met a collection of very talented Americans overseas. The most influential was a man named Ernest. He did not like Zelda very much. He claimed she was motivating me to drink to keep me from writing. In retrospect, he might have been right, but then again, how can one ever really know? I had been drinking long before my marriage fell apart. It was there that I also met with Gertrude Stein, and we had a little club she called The Lost Generation. Basically, we just wrote about how disillusioned we were about the world. We were just being cynical assholes most of the time, though. All in all, I'd say my time abroad was the biggest contributor to my development as a writer.
Well, thank you, Fitzy. That seems to be all the time we have for today. We need to get you back before you bring down the entire space-time continuum.
Well, this has definitely been an experience.
Join us next week when we pull Genghis Khan and grill him about conquering the majority of Asia. Until next week, this has been Quirky Question with Historical Figures.